Hi everyone, my name is Kiara Robinson. I am a senior solutions and strategy consultant at Engaging.io. We are an elite HubSpot partner and have been operating the HubSpot space for over 15 years. And I'm here to show you how to get the most out of HubSpot's Breeze Assistant. So just a little update on Breeze. It has been out since September 2024 from last year's inbound. However, it's recently got some updates. So if you've tried it before and found it fell a little bit short on a few of your expectations, I encourage you to jump back in, have a little go, and I'm going to demo a few of these things today. How to access memory in Breeze, how to save your prompts and access the prompt library, which is great for doing shortcuts, and just a few other use cases of where you can actually use the Breeze Assistant. I'll also show you how to set up a custom assistant and where that would be used. So jumping right in. Okay, so you can see I'm in the Breeze studio. So just down the bottom on the left-hand side, if you click on the overview, it'll come to this page here. If you haven't seen it already, there is a dashboard beta. So what you can see here is some of the agents and assistants that have been set up or that you might be using on your account. So the reporting is pretty light on. You can see from the agent section how many runs per agent. You can see a breakdown by user as well as the top agent runs. This being a demo account doesn't have much data to report here, but if I jump across to assistants, you'll be able to see the kinds of reports that will be available. So chat session per assistant, the user runs again, the top assistant chat. So if you have multiple assistants that you have set up, which one is being used the most, and then looking at user retention as well. So opening up the assistant, I just want to highlight a few things off the bat. If you haven't played around with this, you might not have noticed it. So the first thing I want to highlight is that if you have been chatting to it, you can now jump to your last chat. And then on these three little dot points here, you'll be able to see chats, prompt library, and memory. So I'm just going to go through those now. If you click on chats, you'll be able to see some of the previous chats that I've had with this assistant. So I can go back to a thread and continue on if it was helpful or if I need to reference it. In prompt library, you'll see some of my favorite prompts here. So I've set a few up that I'll demo in a moment, but you can see hex codes for our brands. So when I do any kind of marketing work or any collateral, sometimes I need to double check what color to use. There's also a prompt library, so you can expand these and see there's a few around generating content, summarizing content, doing some research, reporting, adding objects, asking HubSpot for help, which is a massive help when you're in your portal, and then preparing for a meeting. The other thing I just wanted to highlight was the memories. So this is where you can see previous memories. So very similar to how LLMs might record essential information. With HubSpot Breeze Assistant, you can say, remember this. If it thinks it's important, it will add it to its memories. So you can see here, I've previously told it that I'm a senior solutions consultant. It's saved that. And I've also told it that I prefer using bullet points. However, if you try doing a prompt that maybe isn't too relevant. So remember that I like bananas, as an example. If I jump into my memory again, it hasn't qualified that as something helpful. So it does have a little bit of logic there. It's only picking the facts that are relevant to how it operates and how it works. Another thing that I just wanted to mention here was the apps. So you can select apps. If I click on this button, it'll take me to Marketplace here. You can click on ones that work with Breeze. I've already installed Gmail, as you can see. And what that means is Breeze can actually read my emails, help me summarize, and bring notes into a record. So if you are going to use the apps, make sure that you turn them on. So if I click on this drop down here, I can have this default to all the apps that I've connected to user sources. I don't like having that on all the time. So I'm just going to toggle Gmail on, and then I'm going to prompt check my inbox and summarize the last email sent to Kiara. Okay, so while it's working, I'm just going to expand that. So what I'm expecting to do is to go to my Gmail and summarize one. So I've got one about markdown pricing, about banning carts and everything. So what I could ask here is that, okay, add that as a note to Kiara contact record. You don't have to use perfect language. It will pick up on your intent there. I have noticed sometimes it can take a little while to load, especially if you're using apps or maybe you're asking for a bit more of a complicated request. So now it's saying it's added that note to my record. Let's just double check that. So I'm just jumping across to the record I have set up in this portal of my contact record, and I'm expecting there to be a new note added by Breeze. So here we go. We can see that new note here. Okay, so now we're going to go across to a custom assistant. Now, if you haven't set one of these up before, you won't see this toggle down, but you will see manage assistant. So I'm just going to jump into Marketing Maddie, which is a custom assistant I have set up previously. It's defaulting to my last chat here, and I'm just going to create a new one. So I've designed Marketing Maddie to help me with the day-to-day marketing tasks. So what the assistants are really good at is generating content, repurposing content, which is great when you're writing emails, turning blog articles into LinkedIn posts, and all sorts of things like that. So for this example, I'm just going to jump across to one of our case studies, which is on San Antonio Spurs and the work we did with them. I'm going to copy and paste that URL and come back to our Breeze assistant here and just paste this in. I'm going to ask it to create a LinkedIn post for this case study blog. So it's going to read that because it does have access to web search. And I'll show you how this is set up in the background in just a moment. But it's going to search the web. It's going to read through the article I have there. And then it's going to create a LinkedIn post with my tone and branding that I've uploaded. You can see that it's also given me a few hashtags. If I wanted more hashtags though, I actually have a favorite prompt, generate relevant hashtags for this post, because they do change a lot. So I'm just going to use my favorite prompt there and submit it. If you didn't notice, that favorite prompt is different to the one that's in the general assistant. So this being a custom assistant, you can have your own favorite prompts here. So now it's given me a few more hashtags I could use. Okay, so now I'm going to go into setting up a custom assistant. So if I just go back in my screen here, I'm going to go to the Breeze Studio. If you've set up multiple assistants, they will all be listed here. I just have my Marketing Maddie. When you first come here, I just want to point out two things. So agents and assistants currently in beta, don't use credits. Beta just means they're still learning. So make sure you give as much feedback as possible if you notice a glitch or an error. When you're first creating an assistant, you can click on this option. It'll ask you to go through Breeze Studio. I'm just going to close this one. So if you've ever set up a custom GPT, custom gem, or an artifact in Claude, this is a very similar concept. So you have your welcome message here. You can add in your custom instructions. So this is where you might want to use a framework like Wiser, where you give it an identity, give it instructions about what its role is, give it an output, and then also give it some examples as well. And then scrolling down, I just want to highlight something that's really, really cool. So previously it just had the browse the web option. As of last week, they released this Read Your HubSpot CRM Records. Now, the reason I'm so excited about this is because if you enable this box, it means your custom Breeze assistant can actually read custom objects and custom properties. So if you have custom objects and properties in your portal, which I believe a lot of you will because HubSpot is great at out of the box, but it gets even better when you customize your portal. So now it can read those objects. Previously, where it may have failed when you were using Breeze Assistant, you might have asked specific questions about custom properties that you were using, and it would have come back with unknown, not specified. It would have failed to give you accurate information. But now it can read those records. This is really great in that journey to customization and really embedding these assistants as part of your team. You can also add knowledge. So if I click on this, you can see a knowledge vault that I previously set up. I can view that if I would like to. And you can see I've given it a few copy examples of LinkedIn so it can understand what our social posts normally look like. I've also given it our marketing strategy so it knows our overall goals, what we're trying to achieve, and the personas and everything that are involved in that. I've also given it our brand guidelines, so that's where it's pulling its hex codes from. It'll know if we're using terms in the wrong way. You can add up to 20 files to your knowledge vault. And you can also link specific objects. So if there's knowledge articles that you already have, blog posts, etc., you can link those as well. So just jumping back a step, and I'll show you how Marketing Maddie is configured in this portal. So my welcome messaging for this is what are we posting about today? The reason for that is Maddie's instructions are largely around turning content into social posts. So the assistant instructions here, I've given it a job. You're a marketing assistant for engaging. I've told it who engaging is. I've also given it a role, transforming blog content and case studies into on-brand LinkedIn social posts. Assistants really thrive and they have a very clear role. If you try and cram too many different things into it, the instructions can get quite convoluted and you won't have a really accurate output. So it's a great idea to really define what you're trying to achieve here. I've given it a section on the brand's tone and style, so voice, writing style, vibe. No, you can't do dot points and special formatting and instructions. So it's not me being lazy, it's just very plain text. So you have to format your instructions in that way. And then I've got a few rules. So always respecting our clients, celebrating any kind of collaboration. A lot of the work we do has quite technical integrations. So I've asked it to make sure that's accessible and understandable, because we don't want to use too much jargon. We really want to share what we do and celebrate our work. So it knows that its primary output is LinkedIn captions. So everything it spits out is going to be in that format. I've attached my marketing assistant knowledge base, and I'm letting it read our CRM records as well. You can change the icon description. As soon as you're happy with it, publish it. You can jump back in and edit these settings at any point. So I highly recommend building something. Don't worry too much about the instructions. Just get what you need in there, trial it and testing, and prepare for some iterations there. Okay, so a few of the limitations. As I mentioned before, assistants are really good on a chat level and generating content. Where they tend to fall down a little bit and what they're not designed for is long, deep research. So that's the kind of use case where you'd want to go and look at using an agent instead, because they do have limited latency in that regard. So if you've had some use cases that haven't quite worked with Breeze Assistant to date, definitely give it another go with these updates. Okay, so I hope you found this video helpful. There's so many use cases you could do here depending on department and your job role. As I've shown, you could build a marketing assistant that helps. You could build a training one for your own company. There's so many opportunities here within the Breeze Assistant. I highly recommend you jump in, start testing, have some fun with it. Try and recreate some of the use cases you might be using in some of the other LLMs to see how it compares. If you enjoyed this video, please let us know, like and subscribe. And if you want to find out more about how custom assistants are built and how we can help you or your company building more complex use cases, please reach out.